I present to you, beautiful people, my tasty, delicious Asun rice. No seasoning cube or powder added, strictly natural and delicious. I used 3 cups of rice and I have my onion, 3 big onions. I added more. These ones are not enough. And I have my ginger, garlic, and I use goat meat. I have tomato, just small tomato, like 3 to 4. And I have scotch bonnet pepper. I have cayenne pepper, and I have habanero pepper. The three different types of pepper. And I have my oil, right? And I used sea salt. So the sea salt is granulated and I grounded it into powder. And that is what I will be using. You can see. And then I have my thyme. I'll be using my thyme to season my goat meat. You can see there is no seasoning cube or bouillon cubes anywhere around. I don't use it for years now. Okay, so I have my tomato. So I will just be blending my tomato and my pepper, the three different pepper. I said tatashe, shombo, and atarodo plus tomato. So I removed the pepper and the seed of the bell pepper, so it's not too hot. Okay, and then I added onion to my blender, and then I'll blend. So you don't need to blend it too smooth if you don't want. Sometimes I don't blend it smooth, and then I'll use my food processor to chop my onions. Okay, so the onions is a lot, and I don't want to start cutting it with hand. Okay, and then I use my grater also to grate my ginger and garlic into the food processor, and I will blend everything. I'm going to grate it, so it's going to come out chopped. Okay, it's not going to be smooth. That's why I'm using a food processor. It's not a smooth blade. Okay, and then after which I'll cut my goat meat. Goat meat is asun. Okay, so I'll cut my asun meat or goat meat into tiny pieces. Okay, and then I'll add my garlic again and ginger. I'll grate it into the tiny cut goat meat, and then I'll add my sea salt, and then I'll season it with thyme. Okay, so this is just it. This is what I'll be using to season it. So, and then I'll add onion. So be generous with your onions. You can now put it on fire, but remember not to add water. I didn't add water here. It's just the water that comes out of goat while cooking. So that's what I have here. And also put my tomato on fire, so I'll allow the water to boil. So this is the goat meat without water. Okay, so I will now add water into it. Okay, because I will need the sauce. Okay, I need the goat meat stock to boil my chicken, to boil my rice, and then to make the sauce. Okay, so here the tomato is dried, ready. So I'll add my onion. This is the chopped onions. Like I said, please be generous with onions. Always do. If you don't use seasoning cubes, you shouldn't be you shouldn't mice your onion. Okay, use a lot of it, and then I'll grate into it my ginger and garlic again. Okay, so I used a lot of ginger and garlic in this dish. Okay, so you allow the water in the onion to dry before adding your oil. Okay, so you can always use coconut oil. Like I said, coconut oil is the best. Okay, but I did not use coconut oil here. All right, and then so you allow it to dry, allow the oil to mix very well with it, and then so my goat meat is cooked and ready. So I'll just I'll drain the water out rather, and then use little oil to just mix it. It's not necessary. I don't do that sometimes. And then my oven dish, I'll put it in my oven and allow it to dry. So you can use a grill if you have a grill. Okay, so I'll allow why I'll allow it to dry, like it's going to look like it's fried. My sauce, I'm going to add my pepper, my sea salt, and then my curry powder, and then I'll add a little of my sauce, goat meat stock. Okay, and then I add a little more water, so it's going to boil and then cook. Everything is going to cook well. So the water added was very little. Okay, and then I'll cover it, allow it to dry. Okay, so you can see it is the water is no longer there, and then my goat meat is ready. You can see how it's looking fried, and you know how goat meat used to shrink after frying. So that is how it also shrinks. Then in a pan, in a pot, I'm going to add little oil, and then add little onion, and then I'll put my little salt, add little salt. Okay, and then mix it, and then I add my parboiled rice. This rice is very hard, that's why I had to parboil it. And then my goat meat stock. Okay, I'll add the leftover goat meat stock, and then add water, mix together, and allow it to cook. Add salt, please, and allow it to cook. When it's almost ready, I added my sweet corn. This sweet corn, I bought it from the market, not the supermarket, the ones in tins that has preservative loaded in it. Okay, so my sauce is ready. I added my goat meat. Okay, and then I will stir it. I'll allow it to mix well, and then I'll use a dish to just separate a little because I want to start adding the rice into the sauce. Okay, so the rice is ready. You can see the sweet corn is not overcooked, right? So I will just dish from the main rice into the sauce pot and then mix it together. So the pot is getting smaller and later moved it into a bigger pot. So you just keep doing that, and then I added my green bell pepper and a little of my habanero peppers, all right? And then I'll mix it again. I'll add more sauce, sauce, and then I'll keep mixing, and that is it. At this point, your fire should be very very low, or or it should be off at this point, because the rice is ready, the sauce is ready. All you need to do is just to mix. So when you turn off the stove, then you add your onion. So the onion should be raw. So my stove is off already. Okay, the onion should be tasting raw. It shouldn't be cooked. Okay, so that should be the last thing you should add. Okay, so this is it, guys. Tasty, delicious Asun rice. If you're able to try this, please let me know. I assure you, if you do it the way I did it, it will come out excellently well, delicious and tasty. Okay, seasoning cubes is not
The only thing that makes
I
food
paired
tasty.
mine with moi moi. I will show you how I made my moi moi in another video. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye.